What's going on? By now, you've probably taken the STAR test in math. So we'll keep it kind of light today for social studies. Just a couple things. I want to keep the learning going, but I realize that you might have used a huge amount of brain power early in the morning. I hope you did. Hope you did well. So let's talk a little bit about CNN 10 today. The first is going to be about a super complicated topic that goes back, oh man, for generations. At least right after World War II, 1947, 1948. If you remember the Holocaust, we haven't talked too deeply about that, but during World War II in Europe, it was a bad time to be Jewish in Europe. There were a lot of people that thought it was a good thing to get rid of pretty much everybody who was Jewish, and the estimate is about 6 million people who were Jewish were killed. So after World War II, some of the winning powers, U.S. and England, thought, let's create a state, a country, where if you are Jewish, you can go there and live and be relatively safe. It sounds like a great idea. Unfortunately, where that state was picked, there were other people living there. And so some people were just like, yeah, you can't live here anymore. Leave. And the added complexity is you have two different religions that are competing for this land. You have people who are Jewish and people who are Muslim. By the way, today is Eid. So Eid Mubarak, if anybody is celebrating the end of Ramadan today. Well, if you are, you're not here. And we scheduled NWAs on Eid. But luckily, Lewiston is out just because a significant amount of Lewiston's population does celebrate Eid. So they're not in school today, but we are. So what's happening in Israel right now is that, well, before there was an Israel in like 1947, there was a place called Palestine. And now there are parts of Palestine. They have been smushed into smaller parts. And so that's where a lot of tension has been brewing. And it was, when I was a kid, it was really bad. There were always bombings. You might hear of like the Gaza Strip or the West Bank. I think in your lifetime, things have quieted down. But yesterday, there have been a whole new eruption of violence, and some are blaming Israel for this. The Palestinians that are there don't have a whole lot of power, but it's a very complicated situation. Israel is very close to the U.S. All that stuff. It gets very foggy, very controversial. But just know that in the country of Israel, what we call Israel today, there are some groups on the edge of Israel called Palestine, or Palestinians are the names the name we call the people. There's tension there. Hopefully it will quiet down. We'll just have to keep watching for that. The next thing is gasoline. We talked about the cyber attack on the pipeline, Colonial Pipeline, and the Southeast United States really having trouble with gasoline supply. Now, a couple things are going on here. Definitely there was that stoppage in the supply, but when people heard about that stoppage, there was a rush to the pumps. So you have two things going on. Yes, that's harder to get gasoline right now. And it's kind of like what happened with toilet paper last year at the beginning of the pandemic. Everybody hears, oh no, it might be hard to get gasoline. Oh no, it might be hard to get toilet paper. Let's go get it. Let's stock up. Let's hoard. That's one term you'll hear in CNN 10. It's when you hoard something, it means you get way more than you need. And so that's what people are doing for gasoline. So maybe they normally would fill up like next week, like, oh, I can make it till next week. But then they realize, ooh, maybe it won't be around next week. Let's go to the pumps. everybody's getting the same idea, or a lot of people are getting the same idea. Another thing that you will hear, and I want to talk about, they don't talk about it in CNN 10, but it's price gouging. That's something that's illegal. But when people who own a business realize that demand is higher, we've been talking about that quite a bit. The demand for gasoline right now, the people want it, it's definitely higher. Price gouging is illegal. But a business owner could say, wow, people really want this. Let me charge twice as much. Let me charge 3 times as much. It's illegal. And the government is always very cautious about that happening, especially with gasoline. But it does happen. Let's say here in Maine, we have price gouging is kind of going on with a number of things, like secondhand things. I don't know if it'd be considered actually price gouging, but it's really hard to get like a bicycle right now. Like if you want a bicycle, if you want to buy a bicycle, I hope you haven't had to, but they're pretty hard to get. And if you go on like these websites that sell things, I think like maybe Facebook Marketplace or whatever, the price for bikes way more than you would have paid this time like 2 years ago. So demand is up for gasoline. Price is going up a little bit. I think they'll say it's like 7 cents more than it was like last week or something, which is a lot. 7 cents when you fill up a gas tank that might take 30 gallons or so. That can add up. So next page of the notes here. Oh, kind of a cool story. I think CNN 10 calls this man an artist, but in my opinion, he's an artist. And what he does is he takes trash, basically, bottle caps, things that are plastic, and he will mold them into art. But that art is functional. So you'll see pictures of like some chandeliers that he's made out of plastic. I don't know if it's all plastic bottle caps, but that's what it looked like. It might be plastic bottle caps, white ones at least. And then he's made like couches. So it's art that's definitely functional, made with recyclable materials, which is pretty awesome. And you would think it would be a really good thing for the planet. So kind of a cool story. The last story is it's like 30 seconds, but crazy glass elevator in New York City, not finished yet. I don't even know if it started, but there is like an artist's rendition of this elevator. And if you have a fear of heights, yeah, you're not going to like this thing. I might ride it. I bet it's going to be expensive, but it goes up like 110 feet or something like that. Crazy. But I think it'd be kind of cool to ride in it once at least. And then the shout out goes to a school that I actually know. It's Mountain Brook, Alabama. And it's not in I think they say it's in Birmingham, but it's not in Birmingham. It's actually in like it's in Mountain Brook. It's a suburb of Birmingham, but my wife actually interviewed for a job there. It's probably the best high school in all of Alabama. Yeah, a lot of wealthy people have kids that go to that school. So she didn't get the job, but she wanted it. All right, we'll see you later. That's it for today.